In the minds of adult Russians, a cartoon is something that is a priori intended for children. But why are more and more parents having doubts about the safety and benefits for their children of foreign cartoons? Where does this oppressive feeling of anxiety come from when we see our children watching foreign cartoons? Where does the suspicion come from that at this moment something wrong and irreparable is going on? We will try to turn these doubts into absolute certainty. Most of the production of the American Dream Factory conveyor for children, for our children, is not harmless. And the little that remains can be watched only under the parental censorship and with parental commentary, otherwise it will not be you who upbrings your children. And can you imagine our grandmothers and great-grandmothers trusting someone unfamiliar with this most important part of upbringing, telling fairy tales to children? Then why today millions of parents allow their children to watch cartoons that they have not watched themselves, about the authors of which they know nothing, and the purpose of these authors is also unknown? After all, a fairy tale is what forms a model of the world around in the child's mind. Obrazes of mom and dad, friend and enemy, good and evil, all that he will be guided by all his life, like a spiritual compass. By the way, whether your child will care for you in your old age or hand you over to a nursing home also depends on your upbringing, including the fairy tales that you told him and the cartoons you allowed him to watch. The child perceives almost all information in the form of obrazes. From these obrazes, as from blocks, the child builds his own model of the world. And the most important block of this picture is the obraz of a woman, a young lady, a girl. Looking at cartoon heroines, girls absorb stereotypes of future sexual behavior. And in boys, a matrix is formed that will unconsciously strive when choosing a life partner, the mother of their future children. And this is not so much about appearance, but rather about inner, spiritual qualities, the reflections of which are the external manner of action of cartoon heroines. We watched kilometers of American cartoons, recorded hundreds of episodes where female heroines act, and showed all this to a child psychologist. The psychologist was shocked at what she saw, and we were shocked by her verdict. It turns out that the heroine of most American cartoons is designed in such a way that the systematic viewing of tapes with their participation by children leads to the extinction of the function of procreation. This is achieved in the following way. The obraz of a woman is deprived of romance and mystery by endowing it with adult realism, physicality and cruelty. Along the way, female qualities traditional for the Russian society are devalued and ridiculed. The very ones that glorify our good old domestic cartoons: chastity, shyness, selflessness, modesty, and motherhood as such. What foreign, mostly American cartoons do to our children can be summed up in a short formulation: intellectual corruption. These are not my words. This is the opinion of a professional child psychologist. We will talk about the mechanics of changing the child's psyche through the substitution of obrazes. These means are so simple, so often found in foreign cartoons, and so obvious, that one involuntarily wonders how this passes the attention of adults without encountering opposition. Due to the lack of airtime, we will not be able to counter each negative phenomenon of the Western cartoon industry with a counterexample from domestic animation. But if you are not too lazy, do it yourself from memory. And you will see that the cultures that gave birth to these cartoons are going in different directions. Let's go from simple to complex. Color. The main heroine is painted in bright, poisonous colors. This technique exploits the properties of the child's psyche to respond to all the brightest. Thus, from the beginning to the end of the video, the attention of the child is riveted to the character who leads the viewer wherever he wants, without giving him the opportunity to be distracted and reflect. Therefore, in particular, very young children drop everything when there is an advertisement on the screen and watch it as if spellbound. Well, let's move on. The face. It doesn't take a genius to notice that the main characters of all American cartoons look the same. Not only is it plain boring, but if you imagine these features on a living young woman, then she will turn out to be ugly. However, due to the frequency of the flashing of this face on the screen, it turns into an acquired aesthetic stereotype. Thus, girls will strive to look like something that does not exist, and boys growing up will search in vain for something that cannot be in this world at all. Do you think they will find each other? This is the process of creating a new matrix of beauty, replacing beauty with freakness. On the other hand, it is the embodied in cartoons, general tendency of the entire Western world towards uniformity and simplification. Food, drink, aspirations, thoughts, female beauty. In Russian history, such a process was called totalitarianism and was condemned worldwide. Why should cartoon totalitarianism expect a different fate? By the way, the heroine from the Disney Brothers and other conveyors of identical dreams not only looks the same, but they say the same words, the same way, they act in the same way. There is the impression that they unanimously repeat what they saw on TV in the same way as our children. But meanwhile, a unified obraz of the main positive heroine is a dangerous thing. Judge for yourself. We draw a mass-market beauty, which the child identifies as dobrous and good, because he was taught to do this. The child knows that the dobrous and good must be imitated. And then we go and stick to this obraz any old abomination, such as lust, cruelty, disrespect for parents, and who knows what else. And on the positive obraz of the heroine, these parasites will enter the child's soul unnoticed, begin to govern it. We are dealing with the greatest invention of mass consciousness processing technology, a universal subconscious visual module without a sign of good and evil. This is a bright package with dangerous contents. I have in my hands a copy of a magazine for computer game lovers. On page 15 there is a picture that you will now see on your screens. This is an advertisement for erotic computer games for older children, where Vovechka, fatigued from his sexual exploits, just wants to sleep, but gets into the land of erotic nightmares. He's surrounded by special girls with the faces of cartoon princesses. In my opinion, this is the next stage of the intellectual molestation of minors prepared by cartoons. Although I may be wrong, you are the parents. It is for you to decide. The simplest example of how harmful content is put into beautiful packaging is endowing the romantic heroine, the one whom the child sympathizes with and imitates, with attributes of anger, malice, and cruelty. For example, can you imagine Nastyenka from The Scarlet Flower with an expression of anger or rage on her face? Could she bare her teeth at all, just being aggressive? But it is quite possible for the Gypsy in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and many others too. Can you imagine the Frog Princess fighting like a man? But Jasmine in Aladdin or the Troll in Shrek do it not simply habitually, but cruelly, and with relish. They make it fun and contagious. But today it is one of the most popular cartoons among children. The masculinization of women in American cartoons for children leads to a confusion of the role of the sexes in life, which under certain conditions in the future may cause a deeper sexual disorientation in young people.
А теперь ты сомневаешься во мне?
Мужчина ты или женщина, все равно. Здесь новый для нас мир, и нам нужно многому научиться всем.
Например, к отношению к женщинам.
The unisex youth style is, to a certain extent, a continuation of the cartoon unisex. And take notice how the romantic heroine loses her female characteristics and behaves not just like a man, but like Superman. The apotheosis of this process is fantastic cartoons about robots or mummies. There, outwardly remaining a woman, the heroine is not just a man by role, not just Superman, but a native of hell, a demon. And now about sadism and betrayal in its purest form. You have certainly seen this episode from Shrek, and you have probably seen how the children laughed while watching. So you yourself have witnessed how a shift in consciousness is achieved, how strangers change the psyche of your children before your eyes. It is not just a beautiful murder scene, it's a devaluation of death. This episode crosses out the entire system of children's ideas about the world. The main positive heroine of our fairy tales cannot be treacherous, she cannot be cruel, she cannot kill. Remember how Nastyenka from The Scarlet Flower sings about a little nightingale, the Russian symbol of romance and love. And what does the troll do with the nightingale and her offspring? The heroes of Shrek came from a world where God's gift is fried eggs. After that, killing a frog and a snake for the sake of entertainment seems innocent. In fact, this is a romantic attribute of an anti-fairy tale. A fairy tale where not a frog becomes a princess, but a princess turns into a green, evil spirit. And this evil spirit is the romantic heroine of the anti-fairy tale. The anti-heroine is accompanied by anti-romantic metaphors in the course of the plot. The murder of a frog, a snake, a bird, in the same way as normal romantic heroines of our cartoons are accompanied by the singing of a nightingale and the flowering of the earth. And now, from hatred, cruelty, betrayal, and mug punchery, we will smoothly move on to cartoon sex. I emphasize that we are talking about cartoons for children. Recall Vasilisas, Alyonushkas, princesses, and other heroines of traditional domestic cartoons. They do not even pretend to be realistic. They are conditional and airy. Their female attributes are only outwardly indicated. Their femininity is expressed rather through spiritual qualities. This is what a dream looks like in a child's view. Their American counterparts, on the contrary, are realistic, physiological, and have perfectly developed forms of adult women who know how to use these forms. Of course, you will laugh at this word, but in the behavior of American cartoon characters there is no chastity, which is what distinguishes TV production for children from films for adults. Look, showing sympathy for the opposite sex, the cartoon maidens openly flirt, are not shy, they don't lower their eyes to the bottom. These are jaded women, of everyone knows what kind of behavior, who seduce in a well-versed, vulgar and concrete way. And the face of the heroine at this moment is not the mirror of the soul, as it should be, but a functional part of the body. You remember, yes, that children automatically copy the behavior of the heroine. Now, touching and kissing. In our cartoons, the biggest erotica is the holding of hands by the heroes. The kiss is intimate, its physical side is hidden from the eyes of the little viewers. The kiss is only indicated. In foreign cartoons, everything is for show, like it is with adults. Lips are open and lustful. You can touch a woman as you like some regular old thing. Here the hunchback of Notre Dame holds the gypsy in the pose of a sacrificial animal. Here Shrek drags his girlfriend like a bag, and then flirts with her in a way that one does not flirt with a decent woman. But she likes it. In our cartoons, heroines are not dragged. They are not beaten, they are not grabbed in whichever place, because it is not feminine, it is not chaste. According to psychologists, there exist cartoons for little ones where open erotica is shown. Here, for example, is a popular anthropocentric cartoon where animals play people, Tom and Jerry. The behavior of the female cat is an encyclopedia of the behavior of a vulgar street woman, candid erotic poses, this one for example, the butt to the sky, leg raised, or this one of the most adult poses, a man's head on a woman's lap. This position suggests sexual relations among adults. Separately we note the behavior of the cat, because he shows the boy viewers how to behave with a woman. He demonstrates extreme boorishness, and the female cat demonstrates how boorishness should be accepted favorably. The given stereotype of behavior from the point of view of a psychologist, if a child absorbs the stereotype, further excludes relationships of love, respect, and marriage between the sexes, replacing them with the stereotype of sexual partnership. Sexual partnership, returning to the beginning of our conversation, does not presuppose the creation of a family, the continuation of the family. From the point of view of child psychologists, adult stereotypes of behavior, in particular erotica, must not be shown in children's cartoons. This prematurely disinhibits the sphere of inclinations in the child, for which the child is not yet ready functionally and morally physically. These experiences will not have a normal outlet and will cripple the child's psyche. In the future, this will result in sexual problems, difficulties with creating a family, and procreation. These cartoons provoke interest in children, which is still supposed to sleep for a long time and soundly. Therefore, pedophiles are responsible for the physical molestation of our children, and Western cartoons are responsible for the moral one. According to all the same child psychologists, for the normal development of a child during the period of the first interest in the opposite sex, he needs a fairy tale, a riddle, a mystery. Only through romance and timidity in front of the opposite sex can a boy become a real man. Only a modest, chaste and shy girl is able to attract real men, and not freaks from cartoons that cities are teeming with today. Children's modesty and shyness is an indispensable condition for creating a family and procreation in the future. The problem is so serious. Our children are being bombarded so massively with non-childish obrases that there is a mass phenomenon in children that psychologists have called romantic hunger. They need a princess from a childhood dream, and they are slipped in unfresh hussy. They need romance, love and a dream, and they are inundated with sexual impurities.
Белоснежка и 7 гномов, Золушка. Я смотрела мультфильм «Белоснежка», «Алиса в стране чудес» и «Винни-Пух». Красную шапочку, спящая красавица, красавица и чудовище. Я все смотрю, которые по телевизору идут, но иногда пропускаю. Джим Баттон, Том и Джерри.
Проект Z, это Бэтмен, это Джим Баттон.
Иностранные, они хорошо нарисованы.
Ну, марсиане, Симпсоны, ну, Винни-Пух, когда есть.
Шрек, Симпсоны, Аленький цветочек.
Там Спирит или Шрек, Лила и Стич.
Не советский больше по душе.
The chief, the most sacred, the most important obraz of a woman for a child in the fairy tales of all peoples of the world is the obraz of the mother. When we began to look for it in American cartoons, we came across something stunning. Mom, motherhood, the poetry of motherhood in all its traditional form is shown only in cartoons about animals, such as The Lion King, The Jungle Book, Dumbo, 101 Dalmatians. Touching, sentimental and very Dobria scenes of maternal care for cubs, puppies, elephants and other cubs. But when it comes to cartoons about people, or those where animals play people, just judge for yourself. You will experience, as they say, true disgust. Take for example the mother duck from Metro Golden Mayer. A completely degraded, marginal creature that shows her underwear to her husband. This is how alcoholic women look and behave in real life. Her voice, mannerisms, gestures are not maternal. She even holds her child like a glass. Her posture does not protect the child. It is easy to compare what we see with our grey-necked duck, and in both places there is the obraz of the mother. But in young viewers, they form diametrically opposite attitudes towards their own mothers. In American cartoons, we have not come across a single mother of a person who would be young, full of strength, beautiful, causing the desire to imitate in little spectatresses. They are all repulsive. Take at least these characters from the cartoon Goof Troop. Middle-aged, ugly, apathetic, inhibited, with freakish figures. And another common technique is when the mother is drawn in the form of a quite good-looking but old woman. In our cartoons, grandmothers are drawn like this. And now we will show you what is called the 25th frame, a visual obraz that appears on the screen for a very short time, and consciousness does not have time to evaluate it critically. Such obrazes are usually written directly into the subconscious as a hypnotic suggestion. Cartoon Beauty and the Beast. Did you understand anything? Then let's look at it frame by frame. A middle-aged, ugly woman with features distorted by irritation and hatred. And in her arms you can't immediately make out whether it's pigs or human babies. A more disgusting and unattractive obraz of the mother cannot be imagined, because it is combined with the appearance of an angry sow. A believer would say that this is an infernal parody of the Mother of God. And in the background, above all this and on top of all of this, the beautiful heroine can be seen. This metaphor instills in girls an aversion to motherhood in general, and to having many children in particular. Either you want to become the same ugly, old and poor, then be a mother, or forever young and beautiful, then don't even give birth. Girls are as if offered a choice which is in fact not a choice, because the decision is forcibly, disguisedly embedded in the subconscious. Obrazes of a woman. These are obrazes of a future mother and wife. And precisely this is how they should be imprinted in the memory. And not only in the consciousness, but also in the subconscious of the child, both the boy and the girl. For a girl, this is a role model, and for a boy, this is a model that he must choose in the future. How can such a woman arouse anything other than rough attraction? I repeat, at best. And in the worst case, it only causes disgust for the female sex, and for the family, and for life in general. Because if life is inhabited by such female creatures, then such a life is bleak, unpromising. A hopeless life in which a woman does not continue the race. Children love watching cartoons, but parents know from experience that not everything that children like is good for them. For example, in early childhood they like to stick their fingers into the socket, touch fire, put needles in their mouths. You saved your children from all this. So why do millions of Russians calmly watch how their children are crippled by cartoons? After all, the child has the right to childhood, doesn't he?